All right, welcome back to Sports, Stonks, and Gambling. We have some of the usual suspects here. We have Chase and Stefan, but this week we have a special guest, the man with the nose ring, Ian. How are you doing, Ian?
I am doing fantastic. I'm feeling privileged to be given the honor to join you gentlemen this fine Sunday on this amazing podcast.
You are so very welcome. Welcome to the mental elite. or something. But all right. So this
I think it's just mental, but we'll give it the elite.
Yeah, there's another word that could come after there, but this is a family-friendly show. So, but all right. So this past couple weeks since we've last had an episode, we've had trade deadline and we've had most of March Madness. But let's go ahead and get into some of the trades around the NBA the past week. Obviously, the biggest news is Aaron Gordon going to the Nuggets. Unfortunately, we had to give up RJ Hampton and a protected first round pick, but we also had to give up Gary Harris. What do you guys think about that trade? Does it improve the Nugget title chances?
I'll just start real quick. I think, it's hard to see Gary Harris leave Denver. He was definitely the heart and soul of the team for a long time, but just based off of his injuries, I think it's a really good opportunity for him to get a more prominent spot while he's trying to make his comeback. So I know a lot of people are kind of down about Gary leaving, but I think it's actually going to be best for both parties involved. RJ Hampton's obviously a really, really fun prospect, but we can only have so many of those around. We're holding on to Bull. Michael Porter Jr. is still, I was actually kind of surprised they didn't move Michael Porter Jr. Didn't have to in order to get Aaron Gordon. But someone had to go. And if I got to pick, RJ Hampton's not the worst possible person to leave. So
Chase, straight up 1-for-1. Would you trade Michael Porter Jr. Aaron Gordon?
Yeah, I probably would, because I don't think Michael Porter Jr. is going to be better than Aaron, or I think Michael Porter Jr.'s ceiling is really, really high, and that he would be a really great player to send to a team that's trying to start a rebuild and to build a team around. But I think the Nuggets have to win now. They're kind of entering their window, and whatever it takes to get you over the hump. I think the Nuggets made a great trade by getting, two players that are really going to help against specifically the Lakers. And so just knowing what you need in order to get there. Like, I like that we're shoving our chips in. Now's the time to do it. Joker's having an MVP season. So I really like this trade for the Nuggets. I think it's a great trade for the Magic as well, but it's a good trade for the teams for where they're at.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great trade for both teams. Do either of you other two guys, would you guys trade Aaron Gordon for Michael Porter Jr. straight up? Because personally, I wouldn't, but I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about it.
I'll hop in. I would actually echo your sentiment, Adam. I personally think that Michael Porter Jr. has a ton of value, and Chase obviously did echo that. But Aaron Gordon has ultimately, I think he's a really consistent player. He's a blue collar, like he's a blue chip player at his position 100%. The thing that people usually find to be an issue with Gordon is that there is a little bit of a streaky factor. And obviously his all-star selections speak for themselves, but he's never really been on any kind of a playoff caliber team. So I think I really like him going to the Nuggets just because of the value that he specifically offers for the Nuggets. I've seen a lot of people talking about his defensive efficiency and how he can kind of drop back. Him and McGee can kind of drop back as rim protectors and allow Jokic to kind of be the focal point of our offense, which I think needs to happen. But in a straight up trade for Michael Porter Jr., with the way that he can probably evolve and with his ceiling being as high as it is, I don't think I would do it straight up.
I agree. Yeah, music to my ears. Go ahead, Stefan.
I was gonna say I would also agree. I wouldn't take the trade straight up because yes, Michael Porter Jr. might be a sophomore and he's still proving himself, but recently he's been on fire. Like he's been like our main shooter from three. I think like last game when we played against who did we play last week? Who we played last, but I'm pretty sure like the main reason we won that game is because he went 6 from 7 from three, and it like helped us keep us in the game.
Right. Yeah, he definitely.
Quickly,
Go ahead.
I'm not saying that I think Michael Porter Jr. is a better player than Aaron Gordon. What I'm saying is that Michael Porter Jr. is probably, in my opinion, maybe 2 or 3 years out from hitting his prime, and the Nuggets are in win now mode. If Aaron Gordon had a longer contract, I think it would be a more equitable trade. I guess my point is just that, the Nuggets need to be in win now mode, and so they can't just hold on to all these prospects, waiting for them to develop. Like the time is now. So, like I understand that Michael Porter Jr. is definitely a higher ceiling, better caliber player. But if it had happened, I would not have been entirely heartbroken by it. So that's just what I was getting at.
Yeah, I kind of do. Unfortunately, I don't think there was going to be a ton of room for RJ Hampton. I'm kind of worried about the same thing with Zeke Naji coming off the bench. Both of those guys showed just great promise for being, 23rd, and 24th picks in this year's draft. So it was definitely good to move at least one of them. But let's go ahead and let's grade this trade, A to F. We'll start out with our guest. Ian, what would you grade this trade from the Nuggets perspective?
From the Nuggets perspective, are we giving this? If I was to give this a letter grade, I would honestly call this B plus. I would say it's either a high B plus, low A minus. Like Chase said, he definitely put it in perspective, obviously, which is that the Nuggets are in win now mode. So parting with RJ Hampton is really not that big of a blow, and a 2025 protected pick is not something that's going to affect the team in the immediate future. So I would honestly call it. I'll say it's an A minus.
All right, Mr. Stefan, what do you think about this?
I just realized I was muted. I would say the same thing, probably mostly because like the Nuggets have now said it's our time. We got to do it now, and we're not going to wait. So I would give it like a B plus, A minus as well.
Any different thoughts there, Chase?
No, I would just echo that. The other thing being that Aaron Gordon seems excited to be in Denver. The fact that he might be willing to re-sign if we can find the cap space just makes the trade that much better. I think it's an A minus for both teams involved, which is not super common. So, I think it's a great trade.
Right. I think, honestly, I'm kind of in the A plus territory when you're looking at Gary Harris's contract. Like, I'm really surprised that probably a pick that's going to be somewhere in the 20s and a guy who we just picked in the 20s was enough to get all that value from Aaron Gordon and also get rid of Gary's contract. Like, Gary is making more than Aaron Gordon is over the next 2 years, to put it in perspective. And it seems like ever since we signed him to that contract, he just can't be on the court, and he's in like a 4-year shooting slump now. So I think that getting rid of Gary's contract is some extra value that we got on this one. But to wrap this one up, we also got Gary Clark. Have you guys ever even heard of this guy, Gary Clark? Have you ever seen him play, anything like that?
My expectation was that we were just going to send him straight to waivers. I thought it was more just a roster move, but yeah, beyond that, I really don't know anything about him.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like he doesn't really do much, but okay, let's go to the other trade that we made that I think at least improves the Nuggets this season. Let's talk about the JaVale McGee trade. We traded Isaiah Hartenstein and 2 second-round picks to the Cavaliers for JaVale McGee. What do you guys think of this trade?
I personally think it's a great trade, especially after last night when Sacramento won the game with a second left in Isaiah Hartenstein's face, and I made $50. It was huge.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
So I think it was a good trade for similar reasons to the Aaron Gordon trade, just giving up even less value. But in fairness, we received less value. I think McGee is just a really nice rotational piece to have, a really nice depth piece. He's going to provide really good value coming off the bench, but McGee's a really good rim protector. He's a really solid big man. And Hartenstein is going to take, I mean, even if he becomes anything halfway decent, which based off of last night's game did not look good. It's absolutely worth it because the Nuggets don't currently have any room, like we've been talking about, to hold on to these future prospective players, and parting way with 2 future second round picks is really nothing for a really, really nice depth piece. So I'm all for it.
Yeah,
Right.
I think in particular, in my mind, like seeing JaVale McGee come is how do we stop Anthony Davis and get past the Lakers piece? And frankly, we didn't give up a whole lot for him. I think Hartenstein was a liability at best. And losing the picks is going to be kind of immaterial, in my opinion. So I thought that was a great trade. It's nice to see a familiar face coming back to Denver. Would it have been as good as just re-signing Grant? Maybe not, but hindsight's 20/20 on that. So in this scenario, I think it was a good trade.
Right. I'd
Yeah.
have to agree. It's a bummer to have to ship out all that just for JaVale McGee, but Hartenstein has been so bad this season. I think it's like Jokic's on and off stats have been insane this year. And obviously he's the MVP and we should just start referring to him as the MVP. But I think that had a huge reason to do with it because Hartenstein was just awkward. You would think for a guy his size, he'd be a good defender, but he was always in foul trouble. So hopefully also getting JaVale in here can cut down on Jokic's minutes a little bit. But all right, I'm thinking that both of these trades will really help out the Nuggets this year, increase their championship odds. I don't know if I would pick us as the favorite even coming out of the West right now with how Lakers are looking, but we're definitely a lot closer to that. One of probably the biggest trade, at least from like a national media perspective, was Nikola Vucevic to the Bulls for Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and 2 firsts that go into the Magic. I just kind of, looking at the national media kind of spin on this, I saw people hating on this trade. Do you guys have any strong thoughts on it?
I was really confused by that trade because the Bulls are borderline garbage, and so to essentially trade for a centerpiece seems like a strange move, in my opinion. I was surprised that the Bulls weren't selling at the deadline, but maybe it works out. It was definitely the strangest trade of the year, that's for sure.
Do you guys have any other thoughts on this before I evict Chase?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Chase on that one. I really didn't understand it from the Bulls' perspective. I mean, if you're going to go out and get an all-star caliber center, cheers to you. I'm not going to 100% knock that trade. And they do have Levine, so there is potential for this trade to increase the value of their overall starting lineup. And I think it will in the immediate sense. I just don't think it means anything for this season. And to part ways with Carter, who has potential. I don't know. I think he's streaky, but he can be developed into a better player. And then Porter Jr. is kind of off and on, but the first round picks are kind of what do it for me. I think it's a big asking price for 2 rebuilding teams to essentially just swap a piece. I think that Orlando ultimately wins this trade because Vooch was going to get sent off no matter what. I just don't really get it from the Bulls' perspective.
Stefan.
I would say the same thing, but at the same time, like you're getting like an all-star center for, I don't know, like 2 very mediocre players. Like it depends on like the night, but like the first round picks are like kind of what throws me off also because now you're like losing like prospects in the future.
Yeah, I mean, so I kind of think this was a great trade for the Bulls, but a good trade. Because I mean, the Bulls are the 10th seed in the East right now. That 2021 pick probably be, maybe the 10th pick. I don't know. Does that really have that much value? I know that historically, if you got like a Bulls pick, you'd be thinking it was, top 5-ish, but it doesn't look like that's the way they're headed this season, especially now with the Vooch. Like, they're probably going to move up from like the 10th in the East, like the 8th in the East or something like that, and get even worse lottery odds, or even be out of the lottery at that point. So I'm thinking that 2021 first doesn't have a ton of value. Maybe that 2023 one does though, but I think that the Bulls are making this trade and are under the impression that LaVine's going to stick around and sign again. If he doesn't re-sign with the Bulls, then this could be a historically bad trade, and that 2023 first round pick could end up being like top 3. But I don't really see the value in those first round picks being stays. And then Wendell Carter Jr. really hasn't lived up to his promise. And for a rebuilding team like the Magic, I could see them either trading Otto Porter Jr. in the offseason for like cash considerations, or waiving him, or buying him out, or anything like that. I don't feel like they gave up a ton of value for a guy who he is, just a cut above not being an all-star, but he's still an all-star player. And it's definitely not his fault that the Magic were bad.
I agree with that. And isn't Porter Jr.'s contract, isn't it fucking like massive?
I think it is.
I think it's some ridiculous bullshit. So yeah, I ultimately I agree with that too. I don't see the Bulls being a playoff team this year, not any kind of a successful one at least. So I mean, I guess that's why it just doesn't make sense to me in the immediate future, but I could definitely see this panning out for them in maybe the next year, 2 years, if things come together.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it works out for them. I know that Bulls fans are happy about it, but let's go ahead and move on to a trade where we are also trading a former All-Star for literally nothing, and Victor Oladipo going to the Heat for a first-round pick swap, which the Heat are going to be better than the Rockets. Kelly Olynyk, which I guess he's like a good player, but not what the Rockets need. And then also Avery Bradley, who has been out of the rotation to Miami. Does this make the Harden trade like even that much worse?
Significantly.
Like, this is the main piece that they got, and they got literally nothing for him. So I'm just really confused about this. Do you guys think that this helps out the Heat at all?
Oh my God. I think the Heat are in a really solid position. I mean, my two favorites in the East personally right now are the Heat and the Nets, of course. And I think Oladipo is a massive, massive piece for them, whether he goes right into their starting lineup or he more likely serves as a rotational piece to anchor their second unit. I think he's going to be huge. I think he's going to provide their bench with a ridiculous secondary scoring option. So I think it's a really good trade for the Heat, and for the Rockets. I think I understand it. They're just fully jettisoning themselves into rebuild mode, but they easily could have gotten more. They got fleeced.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Stefan or Mr. Chase, any thoughts?
I was gonna say the same thing. Like, now the Heat have like a second option to like score besides Jimmy Butler, so that's very huge. And then from the Rockets, I don't understand it. I guess they're going fully rebuild mode, like selling the team basically, But yeah, because Harden wanted out, he got out, he went to the Nets, and now the main piece they got for him is gone also. So who knows?
I actually like the trade for the Rockets. My big complaint with teams that try to rebuild is that they don't commit to the rebuild and they end up being below average for 15 years instead of just being horrible for a few years. The Rockets have definitely demonstrated that they're not afraid to just absolutely be an embarrassment by making this trade. But I think they've, through the trades that they've made, they've started to pick up a lot of draft assets. I actually don't think that, like, I think they'll end up being okay. I think Kelly Olynyk's actually not horrible. Getting Avery Bradley's not the worst. And my understanding is more about salary cap movement than anything else. So I think the Rockets are setting themselves up for their rebuild. And part of that requires a little bit of tanking.
I do agree with that, Chase, and I like your perspective on it. But I mean, the Rockets were already bad with Oladipo on the roster. It's not like he was preventing them from being bad. And I guess they got some sort of asset. I guess that you could flip the swap to a different team. Like maybe if you flipped it to like the Bucks, and then the Bucks would be able to move up like 10 spots, and the draft's going from like 28 to 20 or something like that. I guess that there's some value there with that pick swap. But
yeah, I was surprised it didn't come with either a first round pick later or something along those lines. So to that point, I think they did maybe get less value than they were able to get, but frankly, it was pretty obvious that they were on a fire sale anyway. So
yeah, that's all I'm saying. I totally agree with that too. I just think they totally. I mean, for the player that Oladipo is, considering the team that he went to, which is the Heat, who are absolutely looking to make a deep playoff push again this year. I think that they easily could have gotten more, but I do applaud them for fully committing to the rebuild. That's 100% what's happening, and it is going to be embarrassing, but I think they could have gotten a better return.
I get it from the Heat's perspective, just because, like we talked about, they didn't give up much. But I don't think that he's going to move the needle a ton for them. I think that he is someone who maybe he'll only help them win a couple games. And I mean, for what they gave up, that's great value. But it'll be interesting to see how the Heat finish out the season. They're 22-24 right now. They're the eighth seed in the East. They're
I think they're on a 6-game losing streak as well.
Yeah, yeah, they are. So I guess they needed some reinforcements, and let's hope that, well, I don't know if we need to hope that they got some, but they might have. All right. And then one of the other trades that I thought was very interesting was Lou Will and 2 seconds to the Atlanta Hawks for Rondo. Like, I don't know. That seems like a lot for a guy who's just coming off the bench, has barely been playing. Sometimes he's a locker room cancer. What do you guys think?
I genuinely cannot believe that was a name that we heard this year in a trade at the deadline. I nothing about it makes sense to me. I would rate the trade for both teams pretty poorly, in my opinion. This one was absolutely flabbergasted. Like, if the other ones were confusing, like this one was just so much more. I don't see how Rondo makes this team better. Like, if that's the piece that you think is going to put you over the edge, I just don't understand the thought process there. But maybe I'm in the minority on that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Just do you think Lou going to the Hawks was a bad move for the Hawks?
I don't think the Hawks, like, I think it makes more sense for the Hawks. But I mean, I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are, Stefan.
Yeah, Rondo was like hardly even playing for the Hawks, so them getting Lou doesn't really make sense. But I'm gonna guess like it's to help them with like their secondary, but I'm not 100% sure.
So I thought this trade was interesting as hell. Like Chase said, these were not two names that I expected to see get moved at the trade deadline. So I kind of looked into it a little bit, and I'm by no means a Clippers fan, but it looks like from their perspective, it's more to kind of clear some space in their rotation. I don't see Rondo being any kind of a meaningful piece for them. I really just think that they wanted to move Williams on. And the reason for that is because Luke Kennard, if if you haven't watched the Clippers at all, is a straight up baller. They signed him to a 4-year extension after trading for him last offseason, and he averages like 8 points in fewer than 20 minutes per game. But his rotation spot was essentially just being taken up by Williams, who they didn't feel comfortable, pushing out of the rotation entirely. So I get it. It's just not any kind of a meaningful or blockbuster trade. And I think it long term for the Clippers, it'll work out. I think Kennard is a better option, and I think he has a higher ceiling moving forward. So I get it, but it's like a C trade at best.
Right. Awesome. Let's go ahead and move on to March Madness. If you guys have any highlights that you wanted to talk about real quick.
Yeah, let's talk about Max Abmas. He's absolutely insane. And Oral Roberts, their run has been nuts. And I was honestly kind of shocked that they weren't. I thought that he was going to make that last shot when he pulled up. To be quite honest with you, I thought they were going to pull off the upset again. But I think his draft stock has insanely gone up.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive to come from a school like Oral Roberts and be the best player on the court. But he definitely seemed to be. Frankly, yeah, I agree. Like I thought they had Arkansas on the ropes the whole game. At some point the Cinderella story has to end, but his draft stock is definitely up. I totally agree. In general, as far as March Madness goes, I think Gonzaga's got to be the consensus favorite to win it all. Colorado played a really tough game, especially after what happened in Boulder. So it's hard to be super disappointed in the team. The fact that, we didn't make it deeper is disappointing, but overall, I thought that was a great team. Hopefully I think Colorado's future is definitely promising. We have the number 12, I believe, or 14 draft class in 2021, which is just unheard of at CU. So it's not all dark, even though we're watching McKinley Wright leave.
Man, that is going to be tough to watch him go. I thought that just watching that Oral Roberts Arkansas game, I thought that it was kind of painfully obvious that Arkansas was like the bigger, more athletic team the entire game. But just Oral Roberts came up clutch in so many big moments. And I thought that shot at the end was going to go in. But nope, that's just the way. Just clank the backboard sometimes. But anything from you, Stefan?
Oh, no, I was going to say the same thing. I did have money on the upset of Oral Roberts again. And that last shot was kind of heartbreaking, but it was bound to happen eventually, So, yeah.
Right. Do you want to just go ahead and talk about your hot streak while we're here?
I don't know. If you need sports picks, I've been super hot throughout March. I've hit, I think it's a total of 25 parlays in the past 20 days. So.
Oh my God,
we're heating up, baby.
Do you have any picks for maybe the next 24 hours?
Well, tonight, looking at the games, I'm taking all favorites in the basketball land. We got the Portland Trailblazers at the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors haven't been looking like themselves, and you could always count on Dame time to pull up. So I have them, the Nuggets, of course. We're playing the Hawks. We just got Aaron Gordon. We'll see what happens. I'm feeling like we might just absolutely dump on them. Not 100% sure. And then I'm also taking the Lakers against the Magic, even though the Magic acquired like a bunch of people.
Okay, I was about to say, why the hell are you picking the Lakers? But now it makes sense.
Yep, two poverty franchises.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna trail you on those three. You just got some solid analysis there. You really sold me.
Of course. If you're not trailing Stefan, you're doing something wrong.
Chase, would you like to give a quick Avalanche update before we close up shop here?
Yeah, I'll give an Avs update, and then really quickly I'll give my sports betting pick of the week. I like Oregon State to cover against Houston in the Elite Eight. Oregon State is a much better team than people realize. Houston definitely had Houston's just not looking like themselves. They've been skating by some pretty average teams. I like Oregon State, but I'm taking the points. So I like that cover. And I also just like
do like
Gonzaga
that
to
take
win
as
the
well.
championship. So that's why I'm picking there. As far as the Avs go, really tough loss against Vegas after we absolutely just steamrolled them a couple nights prior. But Grubauer's out here looking like an absolute star. The team is really coming together. They're on a hot streak right now, even though we ended up losing that game in overtime. I really think the Avs are getting it all together. They're getting healthy at the right time. And the pieces seem to be working. Don Skoy has been, way punching above his weight class. So just an exciting time to be an Avs fan.
Bet the Avs to win the cup. Just saying it.
Yeah, still like the Avs to win the cup. So.
All right. Well, another great episode. Stefan, I was just wondering if you had any closing words for us.
Dude, always got to end it in one way. Hit bombs and fuck moms. Don't forget it.
All right. I love it. Hopefully we'll catch you guys again next week. Have a good one. See ya.